Hello, everyone. Just for your information, we will give it about 2 minutes to give time for everyone to start because I can see you all piling in. And in about 3:01 of local time, so just 1 minute past the hour, we will start with the actual presentation. So hello again, once more, for everyone that have joined in. Just for your information, we will give it about a minute or two to give everyone time to get in and set up their audio, right? To make sure that they get to listen to the beginning of the webinar. And once we see that the majority of people have joined, we will start with the actual presentation. All right. It shows 15:01 of my time. So Kuba, are we ready to start? Should I kick this off?
Yes, let's start.
All right, so now we will do the official introduction for the purpose of the recording, and the webinar will start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dobré ráno, dobré odpoledne, dobrý večer. Some of you have successfully delegated a part of your work to artificial intelligence. Some of you want real-life experience and inspiration for some AI utilization. In both cases, you have dedicated some time to learn new stuff, so kudos to you. You have joined a webinar called 10 Extra Hours a Week for Sales. Either live right now or you are watching the recording later. Both is fine, of course. My name is Lukas Hubka, as you see on the screen. I'm a sales manager here at Easy Software, and I have a confession to make. I do have a problem. I'm getting increasingly frustrated day by day because the entire world is yelling straight to my face, start using AI or die. And I do want to utilize artificial intelligence, though sometimes I feel I'm pretty busy and it can be very difficult to identify where to start. And from talking to my peers, that's a pretty common problem. I've watched a ton of videos, but most of them feel very general, like they lack some detail that I could utilize. And I know that at Easy Software, we have dedicated a part of the company to actually focus on AI adoption. So we decided to take out a shot at it and start providing people real use cases. Today is going to be about one specific AI agent that we have developed and implemented internally. Our goal is to provide a framework for you, some inspiration, and at the end of this presentation, there will also be an option to test this specific AI agent that we've prepared. Let me get through 3 webinar essentials, and let me get them out of the way, and then we'll get going with the actual content. This webinar, once again, is being recorded. Feel free to share the recording with colleagues. We are planning to take around 35 minutes for the presentation, and it will be followed by a Q&A. That will happen at the end of the presentation. Once more, please use the Q&A button in your Zoom application. That is going to make things much easier than asking questions through the chat. So once again, the Q&A button. And I will remind, there will be a little testing takeaway, as I would say, at the end of this presentation. Now, you might have noticed that it wasn't this ugly mug promoted as the presenter of today's webinar, and that's because I am not the main character of this story. I'm more of a sidekick. So allow me to introduce Jakub Blažek, or JBL as we call him internally, who actually put this thing together. So Jakub, if I may, who the hell are you and what the hell is Easy 8?
So hello everyone, thank you Lukáš. Thanks everybody for attending. So who the hell am I, as you eloquently put it? I'm a past salesperson. I've been in sales for 13 years by now. And here at Easy, I'm part of a team which is called Easy 8. It's a whole spin-off project from Easy's Redmine and other products of Easy. And our mission is to capitalize on the 15-year experience of Easy Software on the project management and helping internal processes and bring AI element to it. So our goal is to use automation, integration, and agenting AI to free up time and free people from repetitive tasks and error-prone tasks and give them space to be where they really excel, where the human is really essential. So that is our mission here at Easy 8. And I would like to kick this off a bit with one statement or one statistic that I prepared. And that is that based on the research from Salesforce, sales reps currently spend only 28% of their week actually selling to customers. And the rest is pretty much spent on admin, on research, on preparation, on follow-ups, stuff that don't necessarily make money, but are really important to the sales process. And we essentially found it is very similar here at Easy Software, which is why I actually wanted to do this webinar with Lucas, because he has been a sales leader and a salesperson here at Easy for how long is it, Lucas?
Well, we're pushing 10 years at this point, 10 years in IT sales. So safe to say I am the most knowledgeable person out there.
Congratulations on the coming anniversary then. And yes, so when we were pretty much discussing how we can push ourselves further and improve it, help it, Lukáš was essentially our main customer here at Easy Software.
True.
So when we started the process, we did a lot of thinking, a lot of digging, and we essentially, the focus of this webinar is our Alfred, our, I don't want to say son, but because he is an older guy for us in our mind, he is a sales butler, a new sales assistant who doesn't sleep, doesn't forget, or Lukáš's favorite, he doesn't ask for a raise.
Yes.
So Lukáš, can you please walk us through what were the reasons why you wanted to create some automations? What were the problems in your sales?
Well, you have sort of asked me to put some pains on the slide, so I'll try to comment on them as well. I feel like some of these pains, or let's say challenges, should be pretty relatable for a lot of sales managers out there, or at least I would imagine. I wondered whether I should take this from a person of an account manager or a point of view as me, a sales manager of about 8 people. I kind of realized it's the same because in my previous months there have been 2 major struggles, and that would be one-on-ones with my account managers or one-on-ones with my CEO. And I would often find myself between a rock and a hard place. My account managers are working on enterprise deals, and just like you've mentioned, there was a lot of paperwork included. And both my problem and their problem was that they felt like the proper sales agenda was like 50% of their weekly time, maybe. The ideal solution would be to implement new workflows. The reality is, building new processes, hiring new people isn't as fast as automating with AI nowadays. So I wanted to avoid the impact of, getting stuck in frustrating situation. And to be honest, if I get into specific pains, I've had one big takeaway from my 10 years in IT sales, and that is that salespeople can be surprisingly shy when it comes to contacting people. They would be afraid to contact clients for various reasons. What if they don't like me? What if they're rude to me? Am I being too salesy? Am I being too pushy? So at the end of the day, we saw an increased rates of deals that moved to another stage without us knowing about it, which essentially isn't good, and increased rate of dead deals in the pipeline that we kept forecasting. It was essentially would bite us in the butt later down the line. Also, even though we do have an internal rulebook for account management based on our segmentation, a portion of follow-ups were created just to follow the process, kind of missing the whole purpose of it. generic emails like, I was just wondering if you, or do you have any update, or I'm just bumping this to the top of your mailbox. Emails that clients obviously ignore because there's no value to it. So at the end of the day, my leading indicators looked okay, but not for the right reasons. And we were struggling to collect relevant information while moving towards bigger deals, which leads me to the MedPick implementation that we did about a year ago. The details we needed to implement it, we weren't able to collect it by sending poor emails with no value. And I also had trouble selling the MedPick internally, but I'll share more on that later. And the impact was quite obvious. Not knowing the client meant we were basically just gambling. And one last thing to point out, preparing quotes. We don't have sales admins that would prepare quotes for my account managers. They do it on their own. It used to be very time consuming. My colleagues and clients started reporting troubles understanding our quotes. So that's something that you and I sort of focused on. There is obviously more on the slide, but these were the main kind of pains that tipped the scales to kick this off, if that's okay with you like this.
Perfect. Thank you. So what happened next is that we took these pains in my team. Obviously, we also talked a lot to the sales, not only the leadership, but also individual salespeople to understand where they are losing the deals, where they are losing time, essentially. And we were thinking how to improve this process. And essentially, at first, we thought we might need to change our CRM because we thought maybe it's our CRM that is just not best suited for SaaS sales. We know it excels at other industries, but we are thinking maybe we are not the right fit for our own CRM. And we thought about HubSpot. So we did a 1 month trial. In the end, we found that we would be just exchanging the tool, but the pains would still be the same and the flaws would still be the same. So just exchanging the CRM wasn't gonna cut it. That's what we already knew. So what we did next was we just followed very thoroughly through the sales process. We mapped it, we found the bottlenecks, we found where we were losing the essentially the money, the conversion rates and the deals. And in the end, what we came up with was Alfred. Why I think it was successful, because we can already see very good results, is because it wasn't designed by product owners or tech people. It was really designed with the users and with the internal customer being in our mind for the whole time. So this is where I actually want to go back to you, Lucas, because essentially, could you maybe just start by telling the people about the sales process here at Easy Software?
Yeah, sure. It's not going to be anything groundbreaking, I'd say. Our sales setup is, I would say, quite common for a company with about 90 people. So we obviously have some leads that come from inbound, like trials or requests for proposals. We do have our own outbound channels, whether that's LinkedIn, conferencing, meetups, or running some campaigns. And some of them come through our channels, so through our partnerships or referral programs, let's say. Our sales team itself has about 20 people. We have a first touch team that is supposed to like do the pre-qualification step, your usual BDRs that focus a lot on outbound, and then account managers and channel managers, plus obviously some team leaders. And I don't know if I should count the pre-sales into this because technically they are not the part of the sales team, but we work with pre-sales quite a bit. And when it comes to the process itself, it can be different based on how we got the lead. But in summary, there is a lead. We do a discovery based on segmentation, based on our understanding of the segment, the audience, the persona. Then it's assigned to a specific account manager to do a human interaction. And obviously, our goal is to run the interaction smoothly following the MedPick methodology, like I've mentioned, with a big push on value selling. So we're not just presenting a product and utilizing a lot of internal resources. And the goal, when it comes to the goal for our team, it's definitely time savings because as we're growing, as you can imagine, like if you're successful in sales, the reward you get is more aggressive targets. So that's something that we need to fulfill without scaling headcount too much. So essentially becoming more efficient internally.
Perfect. Thank you. So let me walk you more specifically what Alfred does. So as Lukáš said, at the beginning, there is a lead. Usually it comes either from a contact form, a new trial, or any other channel for that matter. It doesn't really matter. It gets created in our CRM. So I say our CRM, I mean specifically Easy CRM, which some of you might already use, but we can have Alfred run on any CRM that uses API. So it can be Salesforce, it can be HubSpot, which I mentioned, can be Raynet, very popular in Czech Republic, Pipedrive, and so on. Now, let me show you how it can look before I can proceed further. So the standard flow we would have is that this is the Easy AI, easy8.ai website. And we register a lead, which is essentially get in touch with us. Now, what happens at this point? A bunch of automations is started, and we actually, what we need to do first is enrich the lead, because that was one of the tasks is we just need to know more about the people. I remember Lukáš specifically told me, we don't want to go into meetings not prepared, asking for questions that we could have already know on our own if we did our research. So first, what happens is we enrich the lead. We use Lucia and ZoomInfo because we have fairly good results with that, but we can integrate with any database systems such as Clay, which has been hugely popular in sales and marketing in the past year. What we get is typically which regions does the customer operate, what's their industry, who are the important stakeholders, what's the size of the company. And this is for us, this starts getting us a bit of a picture who we are dealing with, and based on that, we prioritize the lead, we score it. Once that happens, it is auto-assigned to a sales rep. So there is a bunch of criteria that we have. First and foremost, it's the language. So we try to route the lead to the relevant person who speaks the same language, but it's also the specialization. So we have sales reps who are really good with finance customers. We have people who focus on defense and aerospace clients. And then obviously the availability, or so even the pipeline size. So we know we are boosting the people who actually have a bit thin pipeline. Now we have all that. The the lead is assigned to a sales rep. And now comes the part that was a big task from Lukáš, not to go blind into the conversation. So Lukáš, can you tell us more about that?
Oh, for sure, you've mentioned it already. With the Medpic implementation, we started to need more and more information from the client, but we still get between 30 to 60 minutes with the client. It's not like they are suddenly willing to spend 3 times as long with us. So we need to start thinking about how we solve that. And my AMs, they used to spend hours doing this, which is, I think, still fine for, let's say, enterprise business, but less so for daily deals. And this is something that helped me cut down on struggles during my one-on-ones as well, because it allowed me to have a much more clearer focus during these discussions instead of spending a significant portion of the one-on-one on this one. In my experience, if I were to share some lessons learned, I would say you need to know what you're asking for. It's definitely best to work with people that are active on LinkedIn because we get the more information from them, but it's not a golden rule. But knowing what you're asking for is amazing. So having personas or profiles ready was very helpful for us because I was able to sort of navigate Alfred much better. And then one more thing that was quite sensitive to think about is to think about like our teams and who can actually deliver extra value on top of this, like who's capable of doing job that Alfred cannot do, because some of let's say the older generation of salespeople, they were quite used to spending hours of time doing research, and now I basically removed this time from them. I gave them the free time, and it was interesting to monitor what they do with the newly acquired capacities.
Absolutely. I think this is where we saw kind of two different results with the senior guys, with the really good sellers who were dutiful and they made their research. We gave them a lot of free time, which they can now spend more with the customers. So that is a big win in my book. Second thing was for those who actually try to wing it and just go to the meeting unprepared, we gave them the research so they went there prepared. So even for them, we see good results because they just don't go in blind. So what does the research do? Is essentially it runs research on the company website. It runs the research on LinkedIn company profile, on the personas profiles, meaning the specific person. And once all that is created, it notifies the sales rep. We ourselves, we use Teams, but obviously we can notify pretty much anything, WhatsApp, Slack, Google Chat, or SMS message. The reason is we found we get huge results if we get into touch with the prospect in 5 to 10 minutes after they fill in the contact form or register trial. So let's see, in the meantime, if that actually happened when I registered Lucas. I'm gonna switch to Teams. Let me check. I have an N8N chatbot here. And yes, we can see actually two. So maybe I misclicked, but we can see that we got 2 leads registered from our website. If I click through and open our CRM, I can already see that we have Lukáš from Easy Software. We've sent him a kickoff email. So here you can see I double click. We don't see the research yet, unfortunately. So let's give it a little bit more time and try refreshing if it will help.
It's usually what, like a 60 to 90
It
seconds?
usually takes like 2 minutes. It depends really on the depth of your LinkedIn. Let me see. Okay. My colleague just pinged me that I clicked sales activities, which is true. So no, it's on comments. So you can see here that we have already a lot of research. So we can see the personal overview of Lukáš Hudka. So we understand who he is, how long he has been in his position. Actually, we can see also a good conversation starters. You've built really strong channel momentum about Redesigned, so we can see it went over your profile. It is true that you are actually big on SAP lately, so it found that perfect.
That is correct.
We see the whole company profile. So we can understand who are the key decision makers in the company, what's the product of Easy Software, what's the target market, and so on. Already, I get a lot of information, so I don't need to go to the meeting and ask, so what do you actually do? It also sent an automated thank you email, which is hyper-personalized, as we call it. Essentially, it used everything from the research and from the enriching to send you a very tailored thank you email. And it also sent to Lukáš a case study, which is relevant for him. So we don't want to send to Easy Software, which is a company of roughly 90 people in IT software. We don't want to send them a Bosch case study because that's a whole another company. We want to send something which is relevant for him. And once that happens, we come back to the good old sales. So if we go here from notification and tailored message,
that's the fun part.
We get to the fun part. So human interaction is which we will never replace, in my opinion, and I definitely hope so as a sales guy. This is where we equip the sales rep with the most things to be successful, and he takes the meeting. For us, he can take a meeting through Teams or Google Meet or live meeting and then take notes. Anyway, he does it, we can help him even further down the line.
For me, if I may, this is amazing because we have value, we have sales assets, we have best practice in the knowledge base, but that doesn't mean it's perfectly integrated into the entire team. People leave, people join. So having Alfred propose the next steps helps me because it sort of cuts down on the time for account managers to look for assets, figure out angles to approach. It keeps the human in the loop, so it protects our fragile sales egos. It's still our salespeople building the rapport. And in many cases, let's say a client from manufacturing, for example, if it's a head of PMO, we get the most common challenges for the persona, most common challenges for the segment, best assets, such as blog posts, like you've mentioned, sends an email draft to account manager's mailbox. And overall, the goal is definitely to assist the transition to human interaction because the holy grail is still getting the meeting scheduled. And I would just say that in the meetings prepared for me, it's similar like showing up to an interview and not knowing anything about the company. The HR on the other side will hate it just as much as if you show up to a demo not knowing stuff about the client and about the company, it's probably not gonna go very well. And I know that you, in particular, have told me many times that you love being sold too well. So we're on the same boat.
Absolutely. When somebody comes to sell to me and is prepared, I just love that. So with this in mind, this is how we want to position our salespeople to be able to do that the same. Okay, and once that meeting happens, where we again put the AI element in, is we help create follow-ups and we help create all the info that was happened on the meeting. We specifically use Teams and Lexi. Lexi is kind of European equivalent of Gong, which is a note taker. But we already tested just the transcript from Teams or from Google Meet or from Zoom, which we are taking, which the webinar is happening at, and we see the same results essentially. So what will happen is the AI will take the transcript, it will create a summary, it will create the next steps for the customer and for the sales rep. It will pre-fill Medpic or whoever uses Spin, Bunt, or Spice. So that data will be already in the CRM. So when Lukáš has his one-on-one on important cases, he can already have a qualified conversation and not ask for them because the sales rep didn't do it. And it will create tailored follow-up emails. Now, obviously, for the sake of this presentation, we can't run another meeting to show you how it works, but I took some past data to show it, how it looks. So if I find this mock customer and we go into the opportunity, so whoever uses EasyCRM is aware or recognizes this. This is the transcript, or rather the summary of the meeting with the customer. So there is the whole context of the company, so we know what happened at the beginning. There were some pain points discussed, which is something we will capitalize on later. There is the product fit part, so we can judge if we can fit with the customer and also how to position it. And for us, obviously, very important is the Medpic pre-filled. So it takes all the things said during the call and pre-fill it. And then there are obviously the next steps. We actually thought about creating a whole to-do tasks in Easy Redmine or Easy Project for them, but essentially we don't want to burden the salespeople too much with too many tasks. So at this point, we found this works the best. And now all of this is taken and a suggested follow-up will be created based on the information. And it's not isolated only to one meeting, but the more meetings happen with the customer, it takes account all of those meetings and creates sort of avatar of the customer. So essentially, when we come to the quoting part later on, it will take the whole history with the customer in the context. The context will be there. Okay, so now that we have all this context, we have all the information. Sometimes there was a really burning problem, and I remember our CEO was very passionate about it, Lukáši. So can you please tell us what's next?
Yeah, I'm just gonna mention that the extracting info is probably my favorite one
Sorry.
because it builds on the human interaction but removes the chunk of the negative human factor. So for me, that's amazing. At the end, I'll be happy to like mention what we are planning further with the extraction because there is a lot of things on the horizon. The next thing is definitely the watchdog on the activity, and it was the initial trigger for the whole project. That's where it started. Full disclosure, we do have a set of rules for account management internally that not everyone follows. Full disclosure number two, like I've already mentioned, sales is full of people with egos. So the only way it worked for me was kind of combining the monitoring aspect of the watchdog with some value for people. That way it served the management purpose of monitoring and keeping order, and it allowed me to actually implement it and get it adopted. So I would say everyone in their CRMs can set up automatic alerts or red flags or warnings. But in this case, we have a watchdog with something of value for the account manager. So that's the difference between our Alfred and a sales Karen just bullying people. At this point, people don't really perceive it as annoying them with administration anymore. And it also allows me to help with those soulless emails, like just a ping, I was wondering, reminding myself. It gives my people a little bit more confidence about what they want to email the client with. And like I said, the whole thing removes a lot of the negative human factor because if there is something that me as Lukács would forget because it was 4 meetings ago, Alfred still remembers it and it's going to remind me. If it's something that has happened on any other call of any of my colleagues and they didn't talk to me about it for obvious reasons, because we don't talk about everything, it will recommend it to me as well. So it's like a sales hive mind in some sort of point of view.
Maybe let me just show how it looks so
Sure.
people have a better idea. So we are still on the same opportunity. We have the transcript of the conversation from the past, and now let's assume that the deal has been inactive, and we can have this is what the sales rep gets. So it's follow up with chat to confirm internal sandbox access, and it just pretty much takes what was discussed the last time and it checks that it wasn't mentioned over the emails somewhere, and just suggest a follow-up message. The sales rep can pretty much copy paste it, send it, and he has a very good follow-up material just to make sure that we are still in touch with the customer and building some rapport. So perfect. That actually covers the portion up until driving the opportunity to some solution validation and maybe some paperwork. And that's one specific use case which we won't at this point show because it would take us about 10 to 15 minutes. But it's our feature that allows for RFP security or technical questionnaire completion. Because that's the thing that takes a lot of time to everybody, or in my experience, every salesperson hates it. Filling RFPs, which sometimes you don't know how it will land, and it's a very time-consuming effort, especially with the paper part, which not every salesperson loves. And you also need to involve typically the very expensive people, the technical people, pre-sales, the solution architects, and so on. What we did is created a solution where you essentially just upload the RFP or the questionnaire, and it takes that, it runs it against the knowledge base that we have for us, but it can use any knowledge base, and also past filled RFPs or potentially also support tickets, and it completes them. And it does that in a kind of traffic light system, which gives 3 colors: green, yellow, and red, based on the confidence it has in its answers. So obviously the green ones are it's very confident, yellow ones needs checking, the red ones are, to be honest, currently more often than not wrong. But still, so far with the results that we have, we get about 50 to 60% right answers, which means for us it saves about 50 to 60% of the time being spent on that. This whole feature came actually as a request from our customer, so thank you for that. And we already implemented it and are seeing great time savings. Now we fill that, we send it to the customer. Lukash, what happens next? This is one of the big time consuming tasks again.
Right. You're gonna be showing it, right? So I might as well speak
Exactly.
in between. What has happened to me quite a few times is that we would prepare a quote which was totally relevant and we would present it to our internal sponsor and everything went well. But then the internal sponsor goes and is supposed to show that quote to someone else that has been much further from the evaluation process. And there was like a lot of a lack of understanding reported across my AMs and clients when this happened. So we needed to create a scenario where we are creating quotes that make this sort of possible, that ideally with like a digestible summary of the prior weeks or months of evaluation, building on what we've told them, building on what the client has told us over the meetings, not just a list of plugins or features, but actually communicating the value that will be delivered for the number that's on the quote. That's something, and I don't want my account managers to write that by hand. Not, at one point, it's time consuming, and at second, not everyone is a copywriter, so that's not probably a good solution to go. Plus, even the routine tasks of quote creation can be very, very time demanding. So, and many account managers would be frustrated because some clients request 3, 4, 5 quotes before they actually move on with the purchase. So this was when we were thinking about where we can save time and make people happy to sell it to account managers internally. This was one of the first sort of areas that we focused on.
So perfect. And in the meantime, I switched the status to opportunity quotation. The reason why Lukash was talking is because the creation takes usually 1 to 2 minutes. So we needed to kill that time. And now if I
Yes.
download it and let's see how it will look, we can already see that the code has been created. Now that is not something, some major news because Easy Redmine already supports that based on templates. The important thing is, for example, this part. So there is a whole executive summary, which is created to specifically talk about the pains the customer mentioned during the discovery. And it creates the benefits. So right now we know if the quote circulates among the stakeholders and decision makers, they know what we are addressing based on their pains and not just we are selling you Easy Redmine because it's a great project management tool and so on. So this is something we see improved the whole process a lot. First, it's a huge speed up because reps don't need to do this manually. Second, it creates better language. So we essentially know we are getting better results when presenting the quotes. We already measured that it's the back and forth between the between the customer and the sales rep is actually decreased by roughly 50%. So many less emails or engagements needed to present the quote again. And now that we've sent the quote, what happens, Lukash? To
Well,
our beloved,
hopefully
every sales guy loves this.
yeah, exactly. Money commissions coming in, no, but real talk. Obviously, account managers, they want some kind of recognition, which makes sense. It's a kind of like a little fun thing at the end of the hustle that we've done. The sales gong that you will be presenting is the equivalent of the office bell. Nothing revolutionary, just putting a notification about the closed deal into Teams. It's just something that our coaches kept telling us. Make sure the success is appreciated. I'm just going to mention, surprisingly, this was actually requested by people outside of our sales during a company all hands meeting. I just wanted to be kind of closer to the day-to-day business, see the impact of their work, I guess, know the client names, for example, just to sort of, I don't know, to be a little bit closer to the front office sometimes.
Yes. And what we did is we just let every sales rep choose their own GIF, which kind of gives them their dopamine hit. So my favorite is the Conan the Barbarian, because I'm the older guy in the sales team, but it's just a fun little thing to make announcement to the whole company. Hey, we served another customer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is all good and well, but what happens more importantly on the business side, Lukash, when we win a deal?
Then the handover comes, and that can be sort of like a friction point in some cases. Like in the past, it used to be a friction point for us because I don't know, like you've sold it already. Maybe you don't feel as an account manager that responsible for handing it over properly, and consultants might be frustrated for not getting enough information. In this case, Alfred can kind of oversee and make sure that the handover has all the proper necessities and all the proper information that the consulting team needs to have to do a good job.
Yes. It's not only that. What it does specifically, we have an integration with Xero, which we use for invoicing. So invoice is immediately generated once a deal is switched to closed one. And we also start a whole project. So let's see if we have one here when we switch this opportunity to closed one. So it creates a templatized project as a client service. Let's see. We can already see there is a 404 Industries project, which is based on a template. We have a beautiful dashboard, which pretty much takes the context of the customer and places it here. So for us, this saved a lot of a lot of time, because we saw this is the inefficiency, because the handovers are typically the friction points, as Lukáš said. Okay, so that's pretty much what Alfred does today. It's ever evolving, because that's the beauty of the platform that we use, is that we can change things very quickly compared to some other solutions. For example, HubSpot, when you use the AI, it's just predefined to do one thing, and it's based on the prompts the solution carries. We can change the prompts and we can change the processes every day, essentially, if it needs to happen. This allows us always to use the tools that are top of breed. So as I said, currently we have great success, for example, with Lucia and ZoomInfo for context, but there might come a new service and we can switch to that super quickly just to make sure we are getting the best results. That's the whole goal of Easy 8, is to be flexible and agile. And when we go back, why today leadership loves Alfred? I think, Lukáš, that is for you to say.
Yeah, you've basically given this as an assignment to me, right? Like, I think on the next slide or maybe one after, there are some impacts that we were able to keep track of. The average
Yes,
deal length. Should I go into that right now, or do you want me to wait?
Yeah, I think for the sake of time, let's just skip on the measurable impact.
The average deal length. We've been reporting about 2 weeks faster deal length, but full disclosure, I'll probably need more time to prove this stat. What I am very happy about is our forecasting, though. Once again, like we used to have dead deals in the forecast, there was a pain. So the difference between forecasted and actually delivered numbers was reduced quite a bit. We've already spoken about the quote and the time to reduce on quote making, or overall, saving time of our people. It's right there on the screen. We've calculated approximately 2 hours, but obviously I'll need a little bit more time. But if you would ask me personally, I would say one-on-ones are much more relevant. I feel much less like their mom, just constantly bullying people to get more important information. For me, I can tell that the sales team adopted it when I pick one person that I know will be very grumpy about changes. And when that person came to me to suggest further improvements and further implementation, I know that it was accepted. Quicker onboarding, more confidence in what's communicated. And I've also had a kind of like a side benefit, and that's a sort of like a team development for near future. AI is here, it's going to stay here. And I feel like if you want to be in sales management, you need to consider it and you need to be aware of it and work with it. And even though it's a sensitive topic, it kind of helped me uncover some weak spots and some strengths in my team. Full disclosure, I had a colleague in mind, for example, for a significant promotion. And throughout the Alfred adoption and implementation, it kind of brought some other people to light instead that I feel like are much more suitable to be in the sales management for the next generation. So yeah, it's just something that I will kind of keep on the radar moving forward. And you've already mentioned it. One last thing I need to point out is, like, if Alfred was here, he would say, ha ha ha, this is not even my final form yet. And that's like Alfred can be constantly improved. And with the first implementations, we've had a list of things that we can be adding, and it's much easier to add than, I don't know, send people and have them trained throughout months, for example, and then have that person leave your company, for example. In this case, it's something that's going to stay with us.
Perfect. Thank you. So at the beginning, we promised to you that you can try a bit of Alfred on your own. So we have this QR code, which if you scan, it will take you to a form where you can fill your contact details. And once you fill them, shortly you will get what we will see if you register at our website. You will get the same research that we would typically get in our CRM. So you can just understand what's the value and how prepared we would come if we were selling to you again, although this webinar was aimed mostly at Easy Read My customers. So thank you all very much for the attention. I'm just give it 10 to 20 more seconds for you to scan the QR if you need.
We can theoretically leave it on the screen for a bit and kind of like move towards questions, if that makes sense, and then stop sharing, I don't know, like a minute or two.
Okay, so I unfortunately, I think I need to end the screen sharing to see the questions.
Oh, don't worry about it. I think I can kick it off with one, if
Perfect.
that's fine with you. I had a chat with one of our partners yesterday evening. We were chit-chatting, so I was telling them that I'm going to be doing this. They were quite interested in this whole Easy 8 spin-off, and they asked me like they already know like how to do the Easy Read Mine discovery and then move the Easy Read Mine into like this standard demo, which is a little bit tailored to the client. They know how it works with our project management software. But how does it work with Easy 8? Say I send a request to talk about Alfred, and then what happens?
Okay, so we typically see two scenarios. One is the customer already has some use case that they know they can improve, some process they can improve, so on. So typically, this is where we start. And very often it happens is I have this process and this part I need automating. So we don't necessarily work like that. We try to understand the whole business process because very often we find that we can automate so much more or improve so much more that it creates a much bigger impact on the process. So that is one thing if the customer already has something in mind. Second is when we see companies and they kind of, you spoke about it slightly, they know they need to adopt AI. They need to go on board of this train. They just don't know how. So we can run a whole we call it AI Canvas workshop, where essentially we have a meeting with design team, with the chosen team. And during that workshop, which typically takes 2 hours at most, we identify use cases which we can enhance, and it doesn't need to be sales. Okay, we talked about Alfred now, but it doesn't need to be that. If we are talking specifically about Alfred, typically how it goes is we create a small POC just to prove the value. That POC typically runs from 2 to 4 weeks. And then if the POC is successful, we run a whole setup phase, which can take, again, 1 to 2 weeks. And then there is a full rollout to the whole sales. The Alfred, when we talk about the pricing or the licensing, we don't really care how big is your sales. It's the same price. So it doesn't matter if you have 5 salespeople and you just want to avoid hiring the 6th one, or if you are 30 people in your sales and you want to bump that, or if you have 100, it's still the same process.
Nice.
Okay, so I see one question in the meantime. I found the right person.
There we go.
From Tom.
It's a question about our note taker, about Lexi in this case, and the consent of the other side, whether or not we can work with a tool like that.
Okay, good question. So how we do it? So it's essentially the same. Lukáš informed you that this meeting is recorded. Note takers such as Lexi, Gong, and similar, they typically send an advance email to the meeting. So if you will be part of the meeting where there will be a note taker, and it doesn't have to be necessarily Lexi that we use, you will receive an email which will say you are having a meeting with Jakub Blažek in 1 day or in 1 hour, depends how you do it, and it will be recorded. So far, I must say for me personally, I didn't have any customer that would oppose to that. We, as the whole sales department of Easy Software, which is roughly 20 plus people, I know that we had like, it could be counted on one hand, the number of people that asked us not to do it, and of course that's okay and absolutely understandable. So we don't invite a note taker for that meeting, and then it's just manual notes that are uploaded to the CRM, and again, Alfred will work based on that note, on those notes.
What helps me in this situation is that these recordings are actually shareable with the client to sort of, and in some cases, it can be like protection for both sides to make sure we have a track record of what was said and an ability for the client to get these kinds of summaries. And if I put it from the perspective of me as an account manager, I usually say that this thing allows me to pay much more attention to listening and to actually talking instead of constantly writing something on the side. I get to focus 100% on the meeting and on the person on the other side. So utilizing their time that they gave to me to, let's say, to the best.
And I must say from my experience, to build on that, I can't even imagine working without it anymore, because if you have a 1 hour or longer discovery, it's really hard to keep track of everything. And I find myself very often, if I need to get very technical on something, I just bring up the part of it, and Lexi and similar solutions. You can ask the Lexi, or you can ask the agent essentially, which part did we discuss this and that, and immediately it's brought to you. So for me, it's a great tool all in all, that helps me being more effective. Okay, another question, which LLM, which AIs do you use? So that's a good question. We currently have the most success with OpenAI, which the reason why we use it is because it's GDPR compliant, ISO 27001 compliant. It's run completely in European environment. We use the German data location, but Alfred can work with any LLM, even with on-premise deployments of LLM. So if you are in a very regulated industry, if compliance and security are the main concerns, it can be isolated even on your own premise, on your own server. There is no one chosen LLM that we would just work with.
There was also a question that probably was targeted more towards me. It was once more about like the adoption of the team. In particular, if you've ever dealt with anything that required some kind of change management, it's still the same. In my shoes, I was very worried about two specific individuals, which I knew that will like struggle adopting this the most. And to be honest, even though I said that the initial trigger was the watchdog, because we needed it for, like, let's say, the management purposes, and because we in management knew things needed to change, I purposely kind of started with the quote simplification, because that was like the quickest way for me to demonstrate to my colleagues that we can save time, you can be happier because you will have less work with quotes. We started with that kind of brought them into the process a little bit, and it made the other parts of the Alfred rollout much easier for me to work with. And also in case of Alfred, I think it's very easy to convince the management why it's helpful. So that's why I decided to put so much focus on working with the people on the other side and making sure to sort of each of the step of the delivery of the implementation is always connected with some value for them, which in this case was very simple because many of those steps were designed to help them.
Okay. One more question. Do you integrate with Rainet CRM? For our non-Czech viewers, that is a Czech CRM. Yes, we do. We integrate with pretty much any CRM that has API. We actually integrate even with Excel. So that's not a problem. Okay, no more open questions. So
Do you want me
Lukáš,
to start closing this out?
absolutely, do it.
All right, beautiful. So in that case, thank you everyone for the attention. I'm just gonna remind you that this was being recorded and the recording will be shared in a couple of days at most. Make sure you can always visit easysoftware.com or
Easy.
easy8.ai for more information. Obviously, we are very invested in this. We are very invested in AI, so there will always be people helping you out. But there's maybe one question that I can sort of pose at the end of the webinar, and that would be like, what's next for Easy8? This was obviously very much focused on the sales section of the workflow within the company. I was told that you guys have stuff in your pipeline for other departments, other teams as well, right?
Absolutely. So that, as you said, that's one thing that we already do. We already have another agent, which is a DevOps agent. Doesn't have a name yet, admittedly. We are already building an HR agent as the next thing. So currently, what we see is just trying to find departments within company which we can assist. So expect more webinars like this based on different departments.
I'm just gonna say DevOps agent, probably David or Devon. My suggestions.
I'm gonna take it to the team. I'm not the one. I was overruled the last time, so.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. All right, people, thank you so much for giving us a bit of your expensive and precious time. We value it, we appreciate it. There will be more webinars like this in the future, so stay tuned, and I hope that you got something out of this one. Have a good one. Thank you, Jakub, for joining me, or rather, thank Lukas for joining you, Jakub, but it's the
Absolutely.
same. Have a good
Thank
one,
you very
people.
much.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.